The heck? I don't get it. I don't think I understand what's going on here. Hey everyone, my name is Ty Fiveash, and today I will be giving you a brief overview of some of the popular artist genres and songs of the 1980s. So let's begin. Soul and R&B. Soul originated in the US in the 1950s, deriving from gospel, R&B, and jazz. R&B came from similar roots around the same time. Tina Turner came out with a song in 1984 called What's Love Got to Do with It? And basically, it's a song about a relationship that has nothing to do with love. But Tina Turner hated it. El DeBarge formed DeBarge with his family, and they recorded I Like It in 1982. And this song is basically about some aspects of love and how this person is the main character is captivated by this girl's beauty. Quincy Jones is another artist from the soul/R&B genre, and he created Secret Garden along with Barry White, Al B. Sure, James Ingram, and El DeBarge in 1989. And this song is about love and seduction. And so that's our soul/R&B. Soul, we already read that. Country is derived from folk, cowboy, and the music of various cultures, but it didn't reach recording potential until the 1920s. It was a surprisingly dynamic decade, which was a shift from the glittery, pop-friendly cowboy neo-traditionalism of the 70s and returned to popular roots of country music of an earlier era. Artists from the country genre include George Strait, Randy Travis, Dwight Yoakam, Steve Earle, and John Anderson. These artists encouraged artists from other genres to collaborate. Ray Charles, Marie Osmond, Sylvia, Kenny Rogers, Rosanne Cash, and Reba McEntire experienced crossover success. Songs from this genre recorded in the decade are George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today, Willie Nelson's Always on My Mind, and Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA. An interesting side note about this last song is that it was sung before a World Series game following the 9/11 attacks, so it was kind of a forgotten song, and it found kind of a new life following the tragic events of 9/11. So that's an interesting note. The next genre I'll be covering is rap/hip hop. Originated from early 1970s block parties in New York City. DJ Kool Herc and Coke La Rock teamed up together to spit rhymes. And they are considered the original founding fathers of hip hop. And rapping is kind of a street art. So, kind of, I guess, literally, you go out in the street and you just start rapping. So, I guess people would rhyme and things of that nature. The MCs were the ones that introduced the DJs and told jokes to keep the crowd energized. And scratching was developed by DJ Grand Wizard Theodore. And basically, what that involved was the DJs pushed the record back and forth, producing a scratching noise as it brushed against the needle. The needle drop was when the needle was dropped at the start of the new song. Well-known artists of this genre included Run DMC, Public Enemy, and Beastie Boys. Rock is the next genre I'm going to talk about. It originated in the 1950s from rock and roll, and Elvis Presley and the Beatles helped to. They were basically I guess you would say, the ancestors of some of the original artists from rock and roll. But AC/DC, Bon Jovi, and Queen kind of took rock and brought it into its own. It took on a whole different meaning in the late 70s and well into the 80s. Songs that were popular during this era include AC/DC's Hell's Bells, Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer, and Queen's Another One Bites the Dust. And Paul Simon was also an artist from that era that kind of did a little rock as well. And he recorded Late in the Evening in 1980. Artists brought varying styles of art to 1980s rock. So it kind of brought their own flair. Like AC/DC had hard rock, heavy metal, blues rock, and rock and roll were their musical style, and what Bon Jovi brought was hard rock, arena rock, glam metal, and pop rock. So, and Queen was they dealt they kind of used arena rock, glam rock, progressive rock, and pop rock. So, and pop. Pop is one of the is I want to say glittery, but I think that may be a type of pop. I always get pop and popular music mixed up, but I think pop music, like in the 80s, was different than the pop that exists today with artists like Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and those artists. I think it's just a little bit different than it was in the 80s. The most well-known pop musicians of the decade included Prince Rogers Nelson, Madonna Scione, and Michael Jackson. Prince was known as the Purple One. That was another nickname for him. Madonna was known as Queen of Pop, and MJ was also known as King of Pop. These three people were considered the most influential pop music stars. Eurythmics led the synth pop movement with Sweet Dreams in 1983. Synth pop music is music that features synthesizers and other electronic sounds. Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, which was released in 1989, and Jackson's Thriller, which I will cover in more detail later in the presentation, also utilized sound effects. Whitney Houston, George Michael, and Phil Collins are other musicians who dove into the pop genre. David Bowie was born David Robert Jones, January the 8th, 1947, in London, UK. He became a household name during the rise of MTV in the 80s. He was known for outlandish fashion choices and creative lyrical compositions. His genres included glam rock and art rock music. The most significant songs of the decade that he produced were Under Pressure, along with Queen in 1981, Fashion in 1980, and Ashes to Ashes in 1981, among others. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. Kenny Rogers, born Kenneth Donald Rogers, August 21st, 1938, in Houston, Texas. He was considered a non-traditional country music artist. Genres that he made when he produced his music included country, adult contemporary, soft rock, and others. Lady, which came out in 1980, Long Arm of the Law, which came out also in 1980, and 20 years ago, produced in 1986, were all recorded in the 1980s. He sold an estimated $250 million worth of records that included 6 gold and 12 platinum albums. Inducted into the Music Hall of Fame, and he just passed away this year. So, sad note there. Let's see, next we have Peter Gabriel, born Peter Brian Gabriel, February 13th, 1950, in Chobham, UK. He was a singer, songwriter, record producer, and activist. He's actually still alive. But he specializes in progressive rock, art pop, experimental, world beat, and related musical genres. He became well known for being a member of the band Genesis from 1967 to 1975. His most popular songs created in the 1980s include Red Rain, Sledgehammer, and In Your Eyes, all in 1986. Red Rain was a reference to both Acid Rain and a wine-filled dream that he had. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014. Run DMC. They were a music group with songs focused around the hip hop genre. Founded in Hollis, Queens, in New York. Music group with songs focused around hip hop genre. Founded in Hollis, Queens, New York. Their original members included Joseph Run Simmons, Daryl DMC McDaniels, and Jason J Master J Mizell. They influenced black culture through hip hops with lyrics referencing urban life. Recordings of note include Walk This Way, featuring Aerosmith in 1986. And that same year, they also released It's Tricky, as well as It's Like That in 1989. They are considered one of the most famous and influential pioneers of hip hop groups. And they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2009. Bruce Springsteen was born Bruce Frederick Joseph Springsteen, September 23rd, 1949, in Long Beach, New Jersey. He launched his career in 1972 with the E Street Band, nicknamed the Boss because he was tasked with collecting the band's fee from club owners and distributing it among the band afterwards. He became known as the new Bob Dylan due to his voice. He went solo with the release of the album Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey in 1973. Hits of the 1980s that are still popular today include Born in the USA and Glory Days, both in 1984. His songs were reflections of his working class origins and sympathies. Inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1999. Michael Jackson is known as the King of Pop. He rose to fame as a member of Jackson 5, now known as the Jacksons. Songs released by Jackson in the 1980s popular today include Thriller, Bad, and Beat It. Thriller was a rare pop song with a horror theme and is considered by the Library of Congress as the most famous music video of all time. The video itself was a was a cultural milestone with elaborate choreography, costumes, and dialogue. It popularized group dance scenes in music videos. The album sold approximately 66 copies worldwide. So that's a lot of copies. Jackson was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Jackson 5 in 1987 and as a solo artist in 2001. And sales for all his albums soared following his death. It happened about 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago. And my last artist that I will be presenting on is Sir Paul McCartney, more commonly known as Paul McCartney. He was born James Paul McCartney, June 18, 1942, in Liverpool, England. He was a member of the Beatles in the 1960s and Wings in the 1970s. In 1989, he played in front of what was believed to be the largest audience in recording history. He can play 25 different instruments, among them the guitar, the flugelhorn, the sitar, and the mandolin. He's unable to read sheet music. So a lot of the songs he wrote, he just did them by rhyming, like with rhythm, and so it's pretty talented individual, honestly, in my opinion. He's definitely one of the greats. So his most popular hits from the 1980s include Coming Up in 1980, Take It Away in 1982, and No More Lonely Nights in 1984. The meanings behind these songs were meant to reflect McCartney's views of life and range between the whimsical and the genuine in tone. He was inducted as a member of the Beatles in 1988 and as a solo artist in 1989. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for watching and stay safe out there.